Hey everybody, Papa Wiggs here with Wiggs. We're going to talk about do a recap of last night's game, Jets versus the 49ers. Uh, listen, I think we both picked the 49ers, didn't we?
Yeah. No, I picked the Jets.
Oh, okay. So, I picked the 49ers, Wiggs picked the Jets. For me personally, there wasn't really a surprise here. I kind of felt like the Jets were going to struggle a little bit against the 49ers defense. I thought it was going to be a much closer game, to be honest with you, though. I didn't think it was going to be 32-19. Brock Purdy didn't really light up the world. He basically, threw for 231 yards, 19 completions on 29 attempts, no touchdowns. Jordan Mason, wow, 28 carries, 147 yards, 5.2 yards average carry, and had one touchdown. So he was the star of the game for the 49ers. Debo had 23 yards rushing, nothing spectacular. I think there wasn't really any big surprises. I mean, Juan Jennings, maybe a little bit of surprise there, but like we talked about in one of our earlier videos, Brandon Ayuk was on a pitch count and he wasn't really going to be playing that much. And Debo had still had 5 receptions for 54 yards, and so they were pretty close. Kittle had 4 receptions for 40 yards. I would have thought maybe he would have had a little bit bigger game, but they really didn't need him, to be quite honest,
No.
with the way the running game was. So it doesn't surprise me that Brock had the game that he did and the receivers did, because they just didn't really need him. And then on the flip side of things, what can we say here? Aaron Rodgers didn't have a great game. I mean, he was 13 to 21, 167 yards, one TD, one interception. Uh, Listen, he got replaced later in the game, probably because they didn't want him to get injured with Tyrod Taylor. Not a big deal there. Tyrod did throw a touchdown, but uh, listen, the 49ers defense just dominated this game. I mean, really, that's what it came down to, right, Wiggs? I mean, at least Brees Hall was able to scrape up 54 yards rushing, and he had a rushing touchdown. And then he also had 5 receptions for 39 yards. So he had over 100 yards, or almost over 100 yards
Yeah.
combined. So, I mean, against the 49ers, you can't really ask for much more, in my eyes. And then Lazard was stepped up with Michael Williams not really being out on the field that much. He had 6 receptions for 89 yards and 2 touchdowns. I think one of those was from Tyrod Taylor, though. And then Garrett Wilson had 6 receptions for 60 yards. Again, they were against a tough DB core there in San Francisco, so it doesn't surprise me. I'm not too concerned about um, about the offense on the Jets team. What's a little bit more concerning is how their defense played. I thought their defense would have been a little bit more stingy against the 49ers, but the 49ers kind of just, dominated the game. Brees Hall, unfortunately, had a fumble, the second series, Wiggs?
Yeah.
So that was unfortunate. A little bit of a surprise here, I thought, was Tyler Conklin wasn't really that much involved in the offense. I really thought that Rodgers was going to find him more here, especially against this tough 49ers D. So hopefully they can build that chemistry, because Rodgers does have a history using his tight end. So was a little surprised there that he wasn't used more. So with that being said, I do think Lazard is someone to keep an eye out on, even with Mike Williams, coming back more, because I think that Rodgers is gonna use Lazard as his little safety blanket, since they played together all those years in Green Bay. So it'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Again, it's the first week. I think the Jets will bounce back. Obviously they've got too much talent on that team on both the offense and defense not to. And I think the 49ers just showed why they're one of the best teams in the NFC. That's just my opinion. Wiggs, what do you think?
I thought it was a sluggish game there for Rodgers. You can definitely tell he's shaking off some rust there because he was not moving that great in the game, and he missed a few passes that he should have completed, and it was just kind of rough to watch. He was super frustrated. You could tell all game long. He was frustrated with how everything was going from the first drive when they went three and out, and Lazard dropped a pass, and then the next possession when Brees Hall fumbled, like he was frustrated from the start, and he just could never wrap his head around the game. Brees Hall, was right around the points I thought he would be. He actually scored a little bit more than I thought because he was at the 18 mark there for us in that game. I thought he was going to have around like 14 or 15. If he didn't fumble, he would have had like 20 fantasy points right there. So, not a bad game there. Garrett Wilson, I thought, had an all right game. I was expecting a little bit more there, but I don't think that's on him. Rodgers was just, in my opinion, not on point for what Rodgers can do in a game. I'm used to seeing Rodgers around like 300 yards and targeting his tight ends and his top receiver a lot more than what he did in that game. So it was a little bit of a shock there for me. On the 49ers side, I was actually really impressed by Mason. I was not expecting him to come in and light up the defense like he did. Like every time he got the ball, it was an impressive run. There was no lackluster play there from him at all. I was not expecting that whatsoever. I was a little shocked there from Brandon Ayuk. Only two catches for 28 yards. He dropped a touchdown pass that he should have caught. That is a routine catch. Brock Purdy put it in the perfect spot and he dropped it. They still capped off that drive with the touchdown, but still, it was kind of sad to see, especially after you get paid that much, regardless of you sitting out a training camp. That's a catch you should. That's a ball you should catch like night and day. Like that's just something you can't drop. Aside from that, Juwan Jennings stepping up with Brandon Ayuk not producing, and then Debo Samuel doing his typical thing, getting the ball, rushing and receiving. So pretty solid stuff there from I think the 49ers overall. Their defense looked better. Brock Purdy looked pretty good. He didn't have to do anything crazy like you said because Mason was running up a muck in that game and didn't have to do a whole lot.
Yeah, this is just another good example of what we talked about in the other recap. Everybody complains about the preseason games, and these teams don't want to play their starters in the preseason games. And I think the teams that have joint practices in preseason benefit from that because they do at least get to see other teams and stuff. But I think when these teams don't play their starters in preseason, whether you agree with it or not, it just causes the first couple games to be sloppy. So there's a reason why they want to extend to 18 games. I don't care what they say. Their first couple games are sloppy because you know, they want to reduce the number of preseason games and and then uh, replace it with a longer regular season, which is fine and dandy, but you're still going to get sloppy play like this. So if they really wanted to do something beneficial, you know, just skip preseason games altogether and have these guys do joint practices. I mean, or something.
Or require the starters to
Or,
play a certain amount of quarters. Like do something where it's going to be beneficial to the start of the season to make it look good.
yeah,
Like,
I just, yeah, they got to do, I mean, you can't,
yeah,
you can't have it both
like
ways. I
like
mean,
like require them to play at least half the game and like get like a footing in there or like a certain amount each week or something. Like something needs to be done because people like Aaron Rodgers and like other vets should not be sitting on the bench and then looking rusty when they come out on the field. Like it's just pathetic at that point.
yeah. So, but at any rate, it is what it is, and it was a good first week of football. Hopefully next week will be even better, and these teams will clean up a lot of the mistakes and get their footing underneath them and get their legs underneath them and all that stuff. So I'm excited for next week. But with that, Wiggs, you got anything to add? All right, everybody, just check us out, Fantasy Fools PPR on YouTube. We're out on Snapchat, Instagram, TikTok, X. Share, like, subscribe. Hopefully you're finding this beneficial. If you have any questions, shoot us a question, any comments. We appreciate any feedback. Otherwise, we'll see you. We'll catch you next time and see you later.